movies for black girl nerds.
Mr. Cage, to say it's an honor is an understatement. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure is entirely mine. Earlier, when I spoke to Tim and to Tom and Kevin, they discussed although it is you, there's still a certain amount of stepping up that has to be done just for the sake of story arc. Like in the beginning, a little bit more narcissism than that you would normally not have in your life. So when you have to do that, do you have to go home and give the family this speech like, okay, I'm acting up a little bit. I don't really think I'm this way. Do you have to give the family a speech before they see it?
Well, I might. Now that you put the thought in my head, maybe I will make that call. You see, the biggest disparity between Nick Cage that's sitting, so-called Nick Cage in front of you, and so-called Nick Cage in the movie is the idea that there's any version of Nick Cage that doesn't want to spend more time with his children. In the movie, I'm playing a character who is putting career first, whereas in my own life, family comes first, and that's a fact. But I feel that Tom is right, because it's a story, it's a movie, and if you look at it in that context, we have to have the protagonist evolve in some way. And in this case, there is a career-oriented, narcissistic actor who slowly evolves into a sensitive family man. I think of myself as a family man. I don't think I have a career. I think I have a job to do, and that's all I have. So there are some big differences. But having said that, it's funny, and I like to be funny. I like to make my wife smile, making goofy faces and acting like a complete, goofball. And I like to make my children laugh. So, I mean, the humor in the movie is pretty close to the humor at home.
I appreciate that. I think that is wonderful. When you have a film like this, you get to employ you get to do action, you have comedy, you have drama. Throughout this magnificent career you've had, which of those avenues do you think brought you the greatest rewards? Because you're good at all of them, but if you had to rank them, how do you rank them?
Well, for me personally, my independently spirited dramatic roots are the closest to my personal taste. I think Pig, I think Leaving Las Vegas are two of my best films I've ever made. But I do want to say that I was very thankful that Hollywood finally invited me back to the realm of comedy. Somewhere along the way, they forgot that I had done Raising Arizona or Honeymoon in Vegas, or It Could Happen to You, or even Moonstruck. But it's nice to be back. I've admired a lot of, there's people like Eddie Murphy, who were not only excellent at comedy, they're excellent at drama. People like Tony Curtis, who are not only excellent at comedy, they're excellent in drama. And I like to keep that range going.
Well, you are marvelous. If I told you how many scenes struck in my life, oh, this is such an honor. Why, thank you, sir. This was marvelous, and I appreciate you talking to me. Thank you again. Thank you, Lily, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm so happy to talk to you.
The pleasure is mine. It's interesting when you portray a character that is so closely related to your own life. So when you get ready, in this case, when you want to distinguish those nuances between that, is it by amping up the character because they're a heightened version of yourself, or is it toning them down for you when you consider how you want to portray the character?
I mean, I think it was a kind of case-by-case situation. Part of my process was, finding those similarities and differences and being able to kind of explore what I wanted to work from a place of how would I feel if this were my life, and that's easy in a sense because I had, a similar upbringing, but the difficulty kind of comes in when you get down to, like you said, the nuances of the character where we didn't have the same parents, and it's a singular experience having a parent in general, but especially having Nicolas Cage as your parent. So I think in that version of Nick in the movie, it gave me a lot to work off of, and to be able to kind of find this character who was external to myself, that was like an alternate universe version of me that I could kind of go into and find a version of catharsis through. It was really special. I can't believe I got to do that.
Yeah, I was thinking that'd probably be rather fun to change aspects of something that you know well, but you're not
Yeah.
willing to give it all. You got to keep some for yourself. So that just seems like it would have been a really fun role. And so, with that, your character development is one of the best because we get to see about this incredible relationship that unfolds with Addy and Nick. What did you enjoy most about this journey you guys had together?
I mean, I think it's so special to see. I mean, Addy as a character is like a typical 16-year-old girl and is also someone who is very young and very sure of her identity and wants to be recognized for who she is and what she likes and who she is as a person. And so being able to play someone who's that young and that, in a sense like that advanced was really special for me. And I don't see a lot of you don't see fathers and daughters kind of finding a compromise where they get to be able to appreciate each other for what they are. And I think having that kind of like give and take to, I won't spoil it, but towards the end where they do start to kind of trade off and he appreciates her and she appreciates him. I think that was what really drew me. It was very raw and emotional for me.
Okay. And lastly, instead of asking you what's your favorite Nick Cage movie, because he's got a lot of them, he has a wealth of career great films. I'll ask you instead, when you think about all the types of characters you've seen him portray, which version is your favorite version of Nick Cage?
That is a very tough question. Raising Arizona is such a fantastic movie. I love the stylized like aspects of it, and the Coens do such a great job of that. And I think he's perfect. That's such a great vehicle for him, because he is so in control of his characters and also is able to find the chaos that we like actually want to see on screen. So I think that movie, definitely, and also just that character is so incredible. I love that character. I love who he is and how devoted he is to his partner and how out of control they become. But and this is like, I keep talking about this movie. Pig is so fantastic. I think it's such a like career defining movie for him, in my opinion anyway. And I'm telling everyone to watch it. I won't say anything, but I think, in my opinion, the fact that he is able to do such different roles and he has such a duality to him, I think that's really exemplified in those two performances.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for your time. I really enjoyed this fantastic film and you were wonderful as well. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. It's lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I appreciate it very much.
Of course.
I am a massive Nick fan, as I'm sure everyone has said to you today. When you work, beginning with you, Tom, when you work with someone like him who is a veteran and he has mastered his craft, does he allow you to have full autonomy in how you want to portray it in the film? Or does he give you a little feedback like, maybe I wouldn't do it quite this way? What is that process like between the two of you?
Well, it's somewhat intimidating to work with a guy who's worked with so many great directors. But I think, when Nick buys in to doing the film, he decides that he's going to trust you. And the interesting thing about Nick is even, 118 movies in, he loves acting and he comes with an idea to set in the morning. And he's like, I would like to start on my coverage very close because I've got something to show you that I'm very excited about. And he would say, let me do this a bunch of times. And then if you want something else, he would literally say, it's my job as the actor is to give you exactly what you want and I'll do it. But he wanted to get his version of things out first, which I thought was a great collaborative process.
Oh, you were doing his voice really, really good. That was pretty good.
Oh yeah, he's got it down.
Thank you. One day I'm going to do it for Nick.
You're going to do a one-man show as Nick Cage.
That's actually not a bad idea. Mike Tyson did something like that. And that was really cool and effective too, like a character doing a character. So that's pretty cool. Kevin, for you, when crafting the script together, there was a moment, were there any moments where you had to stop and think, maybe this is too much, because the plot really has ways of pushing the limit at times?
Yeah, totally. I think the first challenge was, in Act 1 where Nick is at a low point. And so it was us wondering how much we could really push him as the kind of narcissist, bad absentee father. And that was a negotiation with Nick in terms of him kind of coming to us and saying, guys, I am home with my kids. I'm not this I'm not this bad of a dad. And us saying, we know, but it's a character, and we need, for the character arc, we need you to start narcissist and go selfless by the end. So that was, that was a tricky one. And I think the other section is like, when he gets into kind of action James Bond mode, it was trying to keep the believability of like, oh wait, he is a Hollywood actor. Like, how much of a spy can he be? So wanting that to feel, grounded as well.
For sure. And lastly, I'm not gonna, put you on a spot and say, what's your favorite Nick movie of all time? But what I will ask for each of you, like, starting with you, Tom, what version of Nick is the best version? Because he's able to reinvent himself so many ways. And so which versions of him do you like?
I said this to Nick. I said, I've thought about you more than you've thought about you, which is uncomfortable for both of us. Okay. And he would laugh. And I said, I think neurotic Nick Cage is the best Cage. And he would disagree and be like, I'm not neurotic, but he is. And that's the version I love seeing, his like nuanced, sort of detailed performances and movies like Adaptation. That version of Cage, who's overthinking things, to me is like the sweetest, like, most vulnerable, kind of amazing acting version of Cage.
Yeah. Quickly, just, I love when Nick, he can do anything from the more expressionistic, larger than life to, in our film, he plays a more grounded naturalist tone, but he still finds ways to like bring these weird little bizarre moments. Like there's a scene on the cliff where he's yelling at Pedro Pascal and he's like, you brought me out here and you got me on a wild goose chase. And he like screams it. And it's so like real, but crazy and funny. And, it's like he can blend those two and you're mesmerized.
That's awesome. Well, I thank you, gentlemen, for your time. This was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you speaking to me.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.